and today, Merry Christmas to you all. We'll be preparing a French cheese platter. I've prepared lots of cheese in front of me, different sorts, different textures, different milks. And then from here, we'll be reducing to get to the final platter, which I hope all this information will help you make a success of it. So, welcome to today's episode, and now let's get started. I'll be going from this very large display to a smaller display. But what I want to show to you is that we have three different kinds of milk. This is goat's milk, this is ewe's or sheep's milk, this is cow's milk. Then you have different families with regards to the technique with which the cheese is elaborated. You may have bloomy rinds, like in this one for example, or here. You may have washed rinds, like for example here. You may have natural or rinds with ash, like over here. In the end, we're going to come to a platter where all the three kinds of milk and all the different families, including for example blue cheese, like Roquefort cheese over here, or Fourme d'Ambert, are represented, so that everybody finds the kind of milk and the texture he or she prefers. You also see that these labels, this one has a 3 here, this one has a 1, this one here has a 6. It's because normally cheese tasting has an order. You go from the milder cheese to the strongest cheese. In this first board, I've already prepared my 3 milks: goat, sheep or ewe's milk, cow and cow. And this is because one of the first things we consider when preparing a cheese platter is to represent the 3 kinds of milk. The other thing is we try to represent different regions. This one here comes from the Loire Valley, from the center of France. This one here comes from the Basque country. This one here comes from Alsatia. This one here from Auvergne. I have 6 families. Just to start, I have my soft cheese with natural rind here, uncooked pressed cheese, my Ossau-Iraty from the Basque country, my soft cheese with washed rind, it's my Munster from Alsatia, and then I have a blue cheese, the Fourme d'Ambert, which is from Auvergne and which is the mildest of the traditional French cheeses when one puts a blue veined cheese. These are goat's cheeses essentially. They are soft cheeses with a natural rind. That's to say that the rind forms naturally. Sometimes they are covered with ashes, like in the case of this cheese here. Other times with leaves, for example, fig leaves. Goat's milk generally yields a whiter cheese than the other 2 sorts of milk, be it sheep's milk or cow's milk, because they are very mild. When you taste them, these are the first cheeses that you should start tasting. This is why they have a number 1, pressed cheese. There are 2 sorts of cooked cheese and the uncooked pressed cheese. The difference very quickly is that the milk here, when the cheese is being prepared, is heated to a lower degree than in the cooked pressed cheeses. Here it's slightly below 40 degrees centigrade. In the cooked pressed cheeses it's slightly below 60 degrees centigrade. So these cheeses already have lost a lot of their liquid, but will be a bit more hydrated than, let's say, a Comté. This one here is again a soft cheese. These have a washed rind. That means that the rind forms itself by washing the cheese constantly, either with a saline solution of water and salt or with beer, because these cheeses originally were created by monasteries in the Middle Ages, and the monks were also brewing beer, so they would wash the cheese with the beer they were brewing. And the rind is rather sticky. They tend to be from off-white to very deep orange or brownish and have a relatively strong flavor. Finally, here we have the Fourme d'Ambert, which belongs to the blue veined cheese family. They are essentially soft cheeses too, but they have been manipulated by incorporating into them with a needle the mushroom that is responsible for the blue veins. And it's the blue veins created by the mushroom that give it the name of blue veined cheese. These 2 platters show the 2 families that weren't represented on my previous board, and some extra details of a couple of families that were represented with the previous board. This cheese represents the second family, that of soft cheeses with a bloomy rind. Bloomy rinds are edible, velvety and silky. This cheese is a very old cheese in France. It was already appreciated by Charlemagne as well as by King Louis XVI, and because of that it was called the cheese of kings. But also, after Napoleon's defeat, Talleyrand, the French statesman, took it to the Congress of Vienna, and Talleyrand was very well known for his excellency in gastronomy. And his enemies used to say that the only thing that he didn't betray eventually was food and gastronomy. That all the other causes he had betrayed, but never gastronomy. And in the Congress of Vienna, he had wheels and wheels and wheels of this cheese presented at the dinner tables, and the cheese was rewarded with the title of King of Cheeses. This is a very famous French cheese. It's Brie de Meaux. It comes from the surroundings of Paris. So if I went on with my regional cheese board, I could also add this cheese. This one here, I just wanted to show you because it's again a soft cheese with a washed rind. I wanted to show you when I was saying that some of these are very, very orangey, just how orange they can get. And again, here we have a cheese from Burgundy or Franche-Comté, and I'm still developing my French regions. The other thing I wanted to show you, and this is why I put them together on this platter, is that you have two extremes here. Goat's cheeses are very mild, very fresh. They don't last for long. They're small, come from the plains. Instead, these cheeses here are from people that live in the mountains and the need to preserve the cheese for a long time. And therefore, it's the huge wheels that one sees and that age for several years. These cheeses have all different shapes. These differences are going to be important to cut the different kinds of cheese. These two boards again represent the three kinds of milk. This one here is sheep, this one here is cow's milk. Here I have my goat's milk again, and here again I have cow's milk. I've already represented once again my three milks. Some of these cheeses are very old. Roquefort, legend has it that it was accidentally discovered by a shepherd that forgot his lunch of rye bread and cheese in a cave when he was taking care of his herd, and that when he returned a few months later, he found the lunch he had previously forgotten, tried to eat it, found the cheese had turned blue, and that it was edible and that it was good. This one here is Pont l'Evêque. It's from Normandy, and when it was created, it was very similar to another cheese from Normandy with which it used to be confused, Livarot. And because of that, the producers of Pont l'Evêque transformed it into a square. And here again, you have a different shape. The other thing I wanted to show with this cheese, this one here is a soft cheese with a washed rind. I told you they could go from very off-white to very deep orange. When I went to my cheesemonger, he had this one that was particularly whitish, and I picked this one because I just wanted to show you that it's not only a question of color, it's also a question of how the cheese is made. And this is why I chose this Pont l'Evêque, which was particularly whitish, to show you washed rinds can really be very off-white. Here again, three different cheeses. This one, Neuchâtel, is again from Normandy, and the first registers for this cheese appear in the 16th century in Rouen. This one here is from the north of France, and it's a mimolette. It can be either young or aged. This one is aged, and it was Charles de Gaulle's favorite cheese. Finally, Valençay also has a very interesting story. It looks like if one had chopped the top of a pyramid. And it's said that this is because these cheeses originally had the shape of a full pyramid. But once, I've already told you about Talleyrand, he had a castle in Valençay, and he invited Napoleon for dinner. And Napoleon had been defeated by the English fleet in the Battle of Aboukir during his campaign in Egypt. So Talleyrand was afraid the shape of the cheese might bring, because of its shape as a pyramid, bad memories to Napoleon, and that would ruin the dinner together. So just in case, he had the cheese cut. And this is why now the cheese has this shape. I think it's a fun and nice story. Another thing that I wanted to show you is that you can also eventually organize a platter around a sort of milk. We've seen this already with the different kinds of milk. But what I wanted to show you here with my sheep's or ewe's cheese is that I can have with sheep's cheese 3 consistencies and families that are completely different. I had told you when we started today that the first family, soft cheeses with natural rinds, normally were goat's cheeses. I said normally or generally because I had my Peraille in mind, which is sheep's cheese, and this belongs to the mildest family, and this one belongs to the strongest family. So you see that I have 2 very different sorts of cheese from the same region, because this one and this one are from Aveyron, both made with sheep's or ewe's milk. This one again is the same cheese, but this one is the same milk, but this is a pressed cheese, and it comes from the French Basque Country. So this is to show you that you can also organize around a kind of milk. Another thing that I wanted to share with you is that I wanted to look a bit more closely at the washed rind family and at the blue veined family. Because if you look at my labels, they both say 5 and 6, but on my right hand, it's number 5 that's circled, and here it's number 6. This is because although some people will finish, no matter what, by their blue veined cheese, other people may hesitate between these 2 families. And this is a perfect example. Here I have my Fourme d'Ambert. It's a blue veined cheese, but it's very mild to be a blue cheese. Here I have my Epoisse. Epoisse is particularly strong. So many people will have their Fourme d'Ambert before they taste their Epoisse. On the other hand, here I have my Munster and I have a Roquefort. My Munster is going to be milder than my Roquefort. In this case, the order 5-6 is likely to be respected, whereas here it might be a 6-5. To sum up, before we go to the cheese platter itself, you go essentially from milder to stronger, but there may be a few exceptions, and this is one of them.